Greetings, I'm Darren and welcome to the very first episode of our podcast. Now, my first guest up today is the amazing Ben from Rope Brewery, which is a local brewery which you can visit on our brewery bus tours. So, hello Ben, welcome to the first episode.
Hey Darren, thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here. Really honoured to be the first guest on the podcast as well.
Well, I think we've got a bit of a relationship between us, haven't we, for the last 8 months where I've been bringing people to you. So, I've seen how good you are, I've seen how good your beers are, and yeah, let's have a little bit of a conversation about what you do.
Fantastic, yeah, bring it on.
So, tell us about how you got into brewery. Let's go back to the beginning. How did you get into the beer? How did you get to Top Rope? And give us a little bit of history on it.
Okay, well, I started out just as a lot of probably brewers of my sort of generation started out just doing some homebrew. I always back when I was like a teenager, old enough to drink, obviously. I always wanted to brew my own beer. I was always fascinated. At the time, it was real ale, so it was always like the Canes, the Duckers, the Jennings, me and my mates used to go around. We weren't going to nightclubs. We were going to all the old man pubs in Liverpool and drinking as much like brown bitter as we could get our hands on, which was not really what you'd expect an 18-year-old to do. But so out of that, I started going on brewery tours, like Cane's brewery tour, went to Hook Norton down south, like proper like old school, like really historic breweries. I love them, and I just wanted to do a bit of brewing basically. But then I went to uni, and the one thing university flats aren't really well equipped for is the sort of space to brew your own beer. I'm sure a lot of students probably try.
A few demijohns.
Yeah, you just stick them under the bed till they explode. It'll be it'll be all right. So then a couple of years later, I'd moved back to Liverpool. And I was working in a coffee shop as I was working as a barista, and that's a bit sort of sciencey, a bit sort of chemistry-ish. Yeah. So it sort of gave me the sort of foundation of skills that I thought might sort of stand me instead for homebrewing. So I actually got my parents involved. Just like I was living in a flat, and I was like, I just can't. I haven't got no space again. My dad used to make wine when I was a kid, so I was like, he's the one. I'll sort of chip away at him. I'll get into him. So I got into him and I was like, what if I came down every weekend and we started brewing some beer? You could have a few little bottles to drink here and there, it'd be great. And he was like, yeah, okay. So I don't know when, I can't remember when it was. It was probably depressingly close to 10 years ago,
right.
Maybe a little bit longer, that I started doing my first batch of homebrew. It was right before Christmas, I remember, because I made my mates drink it when they came around on Christmas Eve, and it was horrible.
What type of beer was it?
It was a kit from the now defunct Love Brewing shop in Old Swan.
Oh yeah, you're on West Derby Road.
Derby Road, yeah. And it tasted like apple juice.
What was it, about a 12% as well?
No, it wasn't that bad. It was like 6%, which is still quite strong. But it wasn't like you hear all these stories, don't you, about people making like rocket fuel and sort of stuff like that.
Cheap night out.
But so we sort of very quickly learned that we had to like invest in some equipment. So the big one was like temperature control for fermentation. That was the first harsh lesson that I learned as a brewer. And so we built some bits and bobs. Luckily my old bedroom became like the brewing room basically, with all the fermentation bits in, which was kind of cool. And then so we just started brewing and kind of got a bit good at it. And the problem with when you're homebrewing is all your mates will say it's really, really good, because you're giving them loads of free beer.
Yeah, it's a cheap night out.
Yeah, so they've got no objectivity. So they're just like, oh yeah, this is great. You should start a brewery, and you probably maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. So anyway, got down a few years down, or like a year or two down the road, and I entered 5 beers into a Brewdog homebrew club competition into 5 different categories, and won 4 of them.
Was that a nationwide competition?
No, it was just the one in Liverpool, but it was judged by, at the time, Terry, who was at the time the head brewer for Liverpool Craft Beer.
Oh yeah, from Turncoat and stuff.
So it's all his fault really. So if you see him in the street, blame him. He's a lovely fellow. Got a lot of time for Terry. So he won 4 out of 5 categories, and it was like, oh no, maybe this is all right. Maybe my mates aren't just blowing smoke. So at the time, had a bit of inheritance money kicking around, like literally a little bit, enough to build a shed in the back garden, and buy some pots and pans and some cheap equipment. So again, back to working on the parents, got them a little tipsy, and basically said, how about we build a little brewery in your back garden, just a little shed. And I said, look, I'll pay for it all. We'll put the shed in. We'll put electricity and water into it. So at the worst case scenario, if this all goes absolutely nowhere, you can have a lovely shed in your back garden with a light and a lecky and
little
water.
Man cave.
Yeah, you put a bar in there, which is what they've done now. They put a bar in there. It's great. So we built that up over the summer 2016, and did our first brews in sort of September, October, with a view to launching in November. And yeah, that was it. We went through all the sort of legal process. We had HMRC come out to my parents' back garden to do an assessment of the garden, which was hilarious.
No way.
The woman didn't know what to make of it, but she was very nice, and she approved us, which was great. Did all the paperwork. Yeah, got like registered. And yeah, then started just brewing beer in my parents' shed.
So where does the name come from then? What's Top Rope about?
So when me and Neil, who started the brewery with me, we first met at the Brewer Homebrew Club, and that's how we sort of started taking our brewing to sort of the next level. We used to go there every week, and if anyone does homebrew and you don't go to a homebrew club in a local bar, you're missing a trick, because it's basically one night a week where you can just go into a bar and get absolutely slaughtered on yours and other people's beer for free. But more so, it's really good. Like it connects you with other people. You make connections. I made really good friends. Still friends to this day. Other brewery owners. Noah from Chapter went to the same club. Les from Neptune. We all met at the same time.
Through all key players in the city.
Yeah, and if you look at how we've all progressed and sort of moved, we've sort of become, which is kind of crazy, the sort of old guard of of the Liverpool craft beer scene now in terms of breweries, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity to meet other brewers, to learn like other techniques, to try beer that's good and bad. You learn more from trying bad beer than you do from trying good beer, unfortunately. And yeah, so me and Neil were doing that, and every week after the homebrew club finished, we would just stay behind, have another beer, get a little bit tipsy, and we'd basically just chat about whatever. And we both discovered that we were wrestling fans from like 2001, 1999, like the golden era of WWE, or WWF as it was at the time. So every week we just get a bit hammered and talk about wrestling. So when we started like coming up with the idea to maybe we both wanted to start a brewery, we were like, well, wrestling's the reason we sort of became friends, so why not have wrestling become like the sort of theme, the loose sort of theme of the brewery?
Yeah, very good. So brewery's often seen as a bit of an art and a science then. So can you explain us what Top Rope, how you brew your beers currently?
Yeah, sure. So I describe myself as an enthusiastic scientist more than a particularly skilled one. I did science at school. I loved it. I did A-levels, loved it a little bit less. Tried to do it at uni, loved it even less. It just sort of, the thing that they don't tell you about science is every time it gets a bit harder, they change the rules. So they'll tell you this is what an atom looks like, and then the next year in school they'll tell you, oh no, that was a total lie. It actually looks like this. So I just got a bit sort of creeped out by how technically hard science got. But the good thing about brewing is it lets me sort of play around in a sort of science environment that I've still got that, like you say, it is that sort of combination between art and science. A lot of it is like knowing like the definites, like this will do this, this will do this, this will do this, and that comes from experience. And a lot of it is art and creativity and like imagination and looking at those ingredients and like sort of theory crafting them in your head. I mean, like how is this going to interact with this, and how is this going to interact with this? Now, when I do the brewery tour, a little plug for the brewery tour there. When I do the brewery tour, I always try and stress this upon people that like a lot of the targets that you have to hit in brewing are incredibly narrow. They're very specific, like whether it's temperature, whether it's volume, whether it's pH, whether it's flavor, and it always seems like I'm sort of bragging a bit when I say like, oh, and I can hit it within 2 degrees of this and this, but I've brewed 360 times on this brew kit. It just reps, and you know, it just comes from having a go. Basically, I've got no formal training. I've not been to university to do a degree in brewing or anything like that. You know, like I say, I'm an enthusiastic A-level science nerd from Liverpool.
So, what's sort of the biggest mess up you've made then in your brewing with Top Rope? Is there any mad mistakes? Any?
We've had some beer. Oh, I mean, if you want to talk about, a little word of warning for anyone, whether you're a commercial brewer or a home brewer. Kaffir lime leaf, you know the ingredients, you use it in like curries and stuff.
Yeah.
Got asked to make a beer for charity. We do it back in the day. We do an occasional like orange sour, and someone asked me for a charity event, could you do a lime version of it? And I was like, okay, yeah. So we'll get some lime zest. That's real nice. We'll get some Kaffir lime leaf. It says lime on it. It's got to be perfect. Like the craft beer way is to like not use any salty, is to just jam as much of it in as you can. That's like maximum flavour. You know, it's like that's what everyone wants. So we banged a load of this Kaffir lime leaf in this beer, and it tasted like Jif. Like, I mean, I've never tasted Jif, but it tasted how Jif smells. Yeah. If you want beer to taste like floor cleaner, too. So, funnily enough, that was a really nice. It came full circle. Literally, like the week before lockdown, we were invited up to York to brew a beer with Brew York, which is huge for us. Brew York, massive brewery.
Yeah.
They're in supermarkets. They won Brewery of the Year at SEBA last year, and they're really good mates with us. For some reason. So they invited us up to brew a beer with them. It was literally, I remember it was the day Liverpool got beat by Atletico Madrid in the Champions League.
Oh yeah, COVID started the week
Yeah,
after.
and that was when all the fans from Madrid came over, even though Madrid was like a COVID hotspot. So it was like I was getting on the train. I was like, train full of fans from Madrid were coming the other way, and I was like, oh, this is a bit dodgy. So we went up to York, and we were brewing this beer. It was a cherry and lime sour. And the owner was like, Lee, lovely fellow, he was like, oh, I've got all this cafe lime leaf. And I was like, be very careful with that, because he'd never used it before. So that horrible mistake that we made back in the early days actually gave me a chance to tell a much more experienced brewery.
Yeah, pass your knowledge on.
Yeah, which was mad, me telling Brew York how to brew a beer.
Did you end up getting rid of it? Who drank it?
Luckily, we only made 2 kegs. One of it got drank at the charity event, and the other one, we basically quality checked it. We sold the one to the charity event. It went down fine for some reason. And then we checked the other one. I was like, no, this tastes like floor cleaner. It's got to go. So,
God. Well, probably leads on to my next question. Then many of the listeners are probably avid brewers. What sort of advice would you give them going forward then? And any tips? Because there's a big tip there. Don't use that.
Don't use cafe lime leaf.
Yeah.
I think, especially in this current climate, if you want to go into commercial brewing. I mean, presumably it's just for someone who wants to go into commercial brewing.
Yeah, just home brewing. Also,
for home brewing,
what's the next steps? What advice would you give them?
I mean, for home brewing, just brew. Brew as many styles as you can. Drink as much beer as you can sensibly.
Sounds a good idea.
You always joke when you go, oh, it's research, but it is. Every time you drink a beer, if you're scientifically minded, if you're wanting to be a good brewer, you're going to be analysing that beer. I used to work in a bar in town, the Dead Crafty Beer Company, shout out, and I used to get like the mick taken out of me there, because every time a beer went on, I'd never say it was bad. Like I'd say, oh no, I kind of like that. I see what they're going for. Like other people didn't like this sort of style, didn't like that sort of style. Whereas I'd drink anything and I'd just be like, all right, it's not like the perfect beer for me, but compared to what they've said it is what it said it is. So it's technically it's a good beer. It's like you kind of take your own personal preference. Try and be as sort of open-minded to beer styles as possible.
Well, I think that with beer, I think that's the thing, isn't it? People go, oh, I don't like that beer. That beer not necessarily for you, but it could be for someone else. Yeah. But you just haven't found the beer that's right for you.
That's the great thing about where craft beer is now, and I'm sure you see that all the time on the tour. Like we see it in the brewery. Like people come in and you say to me, oh, I've got 2 who don't drink beer, can they have something else? Yeah. And then you'll see them like sneak a little taste of the mate's beer, and their eyes will light up, and they'll be like. And that's the best feeling in the world, because that person, all of a sudden, they've maybe tried Boddington's or Stella or Foster's or Bitter, and they think, oh, they've tried the dad's beer, and they go, oh, I hate that. That's horrible. But they don't know that you can have beer that tastes like ice cream, and beer that tastes like mangoes, and beer that tastes...
we get a lot of people on the tour who are just like Stella drinkers, Foster drinkers, and like, oh, I have to roll my eyes at that. Like, and then the idea behind the tour is to convert people coming to your breweries, trying local beer. So the best feeling is when you see people try your ice cream ales. They're incredible, then. Like,
it's just when you see that person's eyes light up, and like they all of a sudden it's like they've got into a club that they thought they weren't allowed into. It's like, oh, I'm a beer drinker. I drink beer now. Yeah. This is when I go to a bar now. I don't have to like hide behind a pillar and ask for a wine list or a cocktail list. I can just it's just breaking down barriers, and that's what to go back to like the earlier question. That's what sort of the mission statement for Top Rope's always been. It's to make beer fun and accessible for as many people as possible. Like we don't want to gatekeep. We don't want to say, oh, what, you drink Stella, you're not allowed. You haven't got the palate for our bit. No, that's absolute nonsense. Yeah. Beer is for everyone. Beer is supposed to be fun. If anyone listening, or if yourself remembers like the early days of craft beer, when it was this like fantastic like open gate of just possibilities, and all of a sudden everyone was just open to all these insane flavors. Like Azvex down the road they've just done a pina colada beer that looks like a milkshake.
Yeah, I tried it on Saturday, and they're coming on the podcast soon, but possibly without your beers, it's up there with my best beer at the summer at the moment,
because it's just incredible. There's no rules, and that's the whole point of craft beer. There are no rules. It's not like, oh, it has to taste like lager, or it has to taste like Stella, or it has to taste like bitter. No, it's like those styles are great. I love brewing and drinking bitter. I love brewing and drinking lager, but it's about, like I say, it's about making beer for as many people as possible to enjoy, and sort of breaking down these barriers.
What do you think the next trends are? Where do you see the beer world going, and what do you think? Where do you see them going? Because at the moment it's been a lot of sours, hasn't it? We're going into stout season again, so
yeah, it's so hard to predict, because it almost feels like there's different pockets within craft beer now. It feels like it's fractured a little bit. So you've got like a lot of people who are sort of turning back on sort of the more insane styles, and people want more traditional stuff. So you've got a lot of who used to be big IPA drinkers, now they want bitters and they want milds and they want lagers. There's a joke that like it's like the evolution of I saw a picture like a meme, and it was like the evolution of a craft beer drinker, and it was like, the monkey turned into the man, and it started off as the monkey and it was lager, and then it was like IPA, imperial stouts, sours, and then at the end it was lager again. So it's this idea that everything it's all sort of cyclical, but it all sort of comes back around. But then there's people who just want IPAs, and they just want the biggest, juiciest IPA. And like there are breweries in America and in the UK who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible with just hops, and they are absolute magicians. People like Other Half in America, people like Cloudwater, people like Verdant and Daya, who are just like making magic in beer form, which is phenomenal. I think what's happened, what we might see happen, I think we might see breweries start to specialise a little bit.
Which become like an IPA specialist?
Yeah, I think we already see that to an extent, but I think more so because I think the more you go down one road, the more you can sort of hone it.
Yeah, so, like Vault, for example, they're just sours, aren't they?
Like who's the best sour brewery in the UK? It's possibly Vault City. What do they do? They make sour beer.
Yeah.
Every now and then they do an iron brew one, which is excellent. Drink that. But no, like so. I think I don't know if there's a sort of trend that's going to come. I mean, I'd like to see bitter stick around. I think that sort of made a comeback in the last year or so. I know I'm a big bitter. I'm a northern lad. I like me brown beer. It's one of them.
Yeah. So looking ahead, then, where do you see the future of brewing? So where do you see it going? And I know we've just talked about styles and probably channeling you down to the sour roots and stuff. But where do you see it evolving to?
To sort of carry on the trend that I think we've seen since lockdown, really, I think I see it being a bit more local than it has been. I know we've had a lot more desire for people like yourself. We've had a lot more desire for to supply local venues. We've had a lot more interest in local produce. I know we had the Anfield Wrap Down the brewery a couple of weeks ago, and they were just buzzing off the fact that this was a Liverpool brewery, that they were in, which was great. People want to reconnect with their communities through because like it's not easy out there. The cost of everything's going up. Like you shop in Tesco's nearly doubled in price in the last 12 months. People want to spend what little money they have, and they want to see that impact go back into local communities, helping local people. Which I think I don't know, and I never know if this is just a Liverpool thing or if this is happening all over the country. Because Liverpool's a weird one. It always seems to hit a bit harder here, like the local sort of pride.
There's a thing going 2030 Hub, which is based in Liverpool. It's all about sustainability, and we were talking last week all about keeping it local and supporting it. And the idea behind the tours is that I bring people to your tour. They try your beers and then they go back into the city centre, stay away from all the mainstream lagers and try local stuff. And that's for me what it should be about. And it annoys me that when we go into the city, that there isn't still that many distribution points, probably your brands in there and all these local breweries in the city where there should be more, shouldn't there?
Yeah, and that really irks me a little bit. Like I don't like to be negative. I like to be a positive guy. But when you see restaurants opening up, restaurants are a big thing. Now I'm not saying we're the right fit for every restaurant in town. I'm not. But when you see restaurants opening up and it's like, oh, we're going to have local food. Food miles are important. All of our stuff's going to come from this farm around the corner. And then it's but we've got Budweiser and we've got Heineken and we've got Beavertown and we've got
Brixton Lager.
Yeah, you're preaching big local about food. Put half that effort into your drinks, that you do.
It was massive during Eurovision. The amount of tourists we had in the city. People wanted local produce. They want to try local spirits. They want to try local beers, and they want to try local food.
Yeah, it's beer and food tourism. It's what people. You don't want to go halfway around the world and drink the same beer you can get 5 minutes from your house, do you? You want a new experience.
Yeah, we go on holiday, and you're probably going on holiday the same. You try the local produce, don't you? So it's key for me to get your local beers in the city centre.
As my long-suffering girlfriend will attest. Yeah, I drag it to all sorts of. Oh, there's a brewery just around the corner.
On distribution, then, where how far do you go? Where's the furthest distribution point for you?
So obviously,
stocks your beers.
Obviously, our main sort of marks is Liverpool in the northwest. We are really lucky that we have a really good network of local bars and pubs in Liverpool that really do support local beer. And not only do they support local beer, they have done for a long time. Even through like lockdown when they could have just shut, a lot of places stayed open, sort of takeouts. I'll never forget the support that was shown to us by a lot of the bars and pubs in the city when they could have just saved themselves really and sort of, you know, so places like the Decorated Beer Company, Ship and Mitre, I'm going to forget places here, Denby Castle, Bridewell, Belvedere, Beer Engine, Little Taproom on Egworth Road. Or, I mean, literally, if it's a place like the Grapes. I mean, the Grapes on Night Street. It's like I bought a flat 2 minutes around the corner from there. I love the place that much.
That's dangerous. Yeah, very dangerous. Like, what a pub.
You know, they put 9 cask beers on at any one time, and at least 4 or 5 of them are always local.
Yeah.
You know, they do the Lord's work when it comes to supporting local beer. And during Eurovision as well, like these were all the pubs that were ringing us up saying we want local beer on. What can you give us this week? You know, and I think we actually sold out a cask beer that week because, you know, we were turning people away because like, well, we've got nothing left. It's all gone. Which was great. It was great for the city. It was great for the industry. And then we sort of we sell, like, we distribute nationwide through like sort of courier systems and sort of, so people can order our beer. Bar owners can order our beer from anywhere in the country. We had some beer going out to Plymouth the other week.
Wow,
that's
good.
Yeah. I've never been to Plymouth.
Like, how did he find you?
My beer's now been to more places in the UK than I have, which is a really cool thing to say.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. Well, I'm going to try something a little bit different to a different podcast. So I've got a list of 10 questions. I'm going to spin a wheel, and then randomly, I'm just going to ask you a random question. Might be a bit of humour, might be a bit of sensible. So, are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Going to go and spin the wheel, and then we're going to see what it lands on, and then hopefully you'll be able to give me a question. Give me an answer, not a question. So we are on number 7. Can you share a memorable reaction to one of your beers, whether that being good or bad?
Absolutely. So again, just before lockdown, we were at a beer festival in Mold. And it was a great night. The rugby was on, so obviously like half the time I was out to watch the rugby, but they had it on at the beer festival. I think Wales lost to Ireland, so that kind of dampened the mood a bit. But we had like a couple of beers on. And we always bring, when we go to beer festivals, like we'll bring like the sort of the more accessible beers, so like the ice cream pale, the mango pale, like stuff that people can like really get into, like people who aren't really beer drinkers can
tremendous
enjoy.
Beers then, by the way, yeah.
And so this woman came up, and she was like, "Oh, I've tried a few beers today, and I don't think beer's for me." So my mum went into like full. Like my mum's great, by the way. If you ever come to the tap room, my mum's like, I'm not sure how old she is. She's in her 60s, but I'm not going to I won't put a number on it because she'll hit me. She worked in the civil service her whole life in HMRC, and she's just had this like second career as like an amazing tap bar host. She's Mr. Colin. Like she will. She certainly makes our guests welcome. Yeah, she's normally I'm pouring the beer when you come in, and she's the first point of call. He sort of chats to everyone, and she's just like the most. She's got the most time. Like I've been working in the service industry for over 10 years, so I think I've got a little bit less patience for people. But my mum's got that like young like enthusiasm that comes from just starting off. So my mum goes into like full hospitality mode, and she's like, "Oh, well, we've got this beer, we've got this beer, we've got this beer." Bear in mind, like we're at a beer festival, a third of beer is like £1.50 or something like that. So she's like, "Oh, can I just try them all?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, fine, yeah, you can try them." So she tries one. She's at the mango beer. "Oh no, it's too sour." "All right, it's mango. Okay, it's a bit tart. Yeah, no worries." Try the ice cream beer. Literally tastes like cream soda. "Oh no,
yeah, brilliant, that one.
Too sweet though. I don't like it." Okay. So we're like, "Oh, we got one left. It's the maple pecan stout. It's my favorite beer we make. It's called Canadian Destroyer. It's like a really nice, sweet, but not too sweet. A little bit chocolatey. Everyone who has it, even people who don't like stouts, seem to like it. So we're like, "Oh, this might be the one." You know, sometimes you think, "Oh, this is a bit of a curveball, but it might just do the trick." So she took a sip and she spat it back out into the glass.
No way. The wine tasted?
No, because she was like, "Oh, I can't drink that." And I'm like, I mean, there are things I don't enjoy drinking. I'll give you that. But there's nothing I've ever took a sip of that I've had to spit back into the glass. Yeah. I've drank, when I worked in the coffee shop, I accidentally drank sour milk and I was able to swallow that, you know. Like, nothing's so bad that you have to spit it back into a glass. I'm sorry.
Probably a family podcast. We could go down the route of spitting and swallowing, couldn't we? But I think we'll leave that on the line.
Her facial expression will stick with me till the day I
die. Great. Right, let's spin that wheel and let's have a little look at another question. What is your favourite beer, by the way, Top Rope have brewed?
My favourite beer that Top Rope brewed, so it is Canadian Destroyer. I'm a dark beer guy. Me and my dad we communicate through our appraisals of dark beer. I think that's our sort of love language. So I think stouts have always got a special place in my heart, and that's my favourite. I love maple syrup. I'm a pancake fiend. You can tell by looking at me. So yeah, absolutely that one.
Right, next question. If you could have a beer with any historical figure, who would it be and why? Oh. They can be dead, they can be still alive.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'd probably go with Freddie Mercury.
Would you really? Yeah.
I was when I was younger.
You could have had a drink with him in town. He used to drink in the Philharmonic dining rooms.
I used to be a massive Queen. I still am. I used to be a massive Queen fan when I was younger. And obviously, you know, when Freddie Mercury died when I was like 4 years old, so I never really knew the world with Freddie Mercury in it. And he looks like a bit of a laugh, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah,
he'd be sound in a pub.
Yeah. Would you know he used to live in the? He used to live above in the Dovedale Towers as well for 3 months.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
found that out last
my
week,
uncle's
actually.
mate used to be the landlord of the Dovedale, so I got to go and see all the upstairs bits of it.
Yeah. Any particular Queen favourite songs though?
I'm a bit of a hipster, so I like the sort of Queen one, you know, like Seven Seas of Rye and all that.
Yeah.
Like sort of the early stuff.
Yeah, cool. Next spin is question number 3. If your brewery was a fictional character, who would it be?
A fictional character.
Fictional character, yeah. So that can be a cartoon, anyone, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, just because I'm a big fan, I'd have to say something like along the lines like a Homer Simpson. It's like not the most glamorous, like not the most well off, but sort of somewhat well intentioned and sort of
just a well-oiled guy.
Sort of just gets there through like sort of effort and a bit of luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a good laugh.
Someone a bit fun. You can laugh at us and you can laugh with us. You know, that's the whole point.
Do you know there's a town outside Barcelona and they actually sell Huff beer?
Really?
Yeah, and you can actually buy it. And it's the reason they managed to sell it was because when the Simpsons done the copyright for Huff beer around the world, they never copyrighted it in Spain.
Oh, right.
So you can actually buy it in Spain.
I need to go back to Barcelona.
Yeah,
so there you go. That's a reason for me to go back.
Just had another spin of the wheel. So number 5, if you could have a beer. Oh, we just had that one, sorry.
I mean, I can pick another one if you want.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. Yeah. Hang on, let me just see what it's filled on.
This is the one thing we didn't want to happen, wasn't it? But at the same time, twice.
Yeah, number 1. Do you have a personal favourite brew that you've created, and what was the inspiration behind it?
So I talked about Canadian Destroyer just then, so I'll pick another one, and I'll pick the ice cream pale.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Because that's got a really funny story. So I can't even remember why we wanted to make an ice cream beer to begin with. I think it came from... So people always ask, like, when you make a beer, does the name come first? Does the beer come first? And the answer is it's kind of 50-50. It depends. Sometimes I really want to brew a style of beer and we'll sort of come up with a name afterwards. Now, a little bit of history about the ice cream pale. It used to be called something else. It used to be called Cold Stone Cream Austin, which is an amalgamation of the American ice cream company Cold Stone Creamery and the former wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin. We are not allowed to call that anymore because of some correspondence we received from the WWE. Which is fine, you know.
Billion-dollar corporation like that, trying to find... How did they find you, though? That's the thing.
I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they did. It means we're doing something right.
Yeah,
if they found us. They were very polite about it. They could have been a lot, like... When someone says, oh, they sent us a very nice letter, they actually did send us a very nice letter. That's just fine. You know, we didn't mind renaming it. It wasn't sort of, you know, a big deal for us. Anyway, so this is one where the name came around first, and I have to shout out... So my friend Mark, who you might know, he works for Asvex. He's now their sales guy. He's from New York.
Yeah.
And me and him and his girlfriend used to live in a flat together about 5 years ago. And we were out drinking one night in town. I think it was at an event. We were in Deck Beer Company for like a Meet the Brewer or something. And just like must have been gone midnight. Must have been as we were shutting up. We'd all had a few beers, and Mark's partner Ruby, she was trying. We must have been talking about wrestling earlier in the night, and it must have stuck in her head. And she was trying to say, like, Cold Stone Creamery. She's trying to reference the company, Cold Stone Creamery, and she just said Cold Stone Cream Austin. And I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. So I sent it. I was like, I'm pretty drunk here. I'm gonna have to write this down. So I sent it to our brewery WhatsApp group at like midnight. Just no context, just the words Cold Stone Cream Austin. Yeah, like just that. and then like the next morning I had to explain it. I was like, well, actually, yeah, I want to do a beer, blah blah blah. And I brewed it, and I was like, oh, this is probably going to be an absolute disaster because, you know, it's an ice cream beer and no one's going to want it. And it just took off like straight away. It was one of them. It was just instant success. Yeah, it probably should. It still is. We've been brewing it for 5 years now, and it's still our biggest selling beer year on year.
Is that part of your core range then?
Yeah, which is insane because you look at like core beers, you think IPAs, pales, stouts.
Yeah.
You don't think ice cream beers. You know.
Yeah. It is brilliant. I remember we mentioned before the Anfield Wrap coming in a couple of weeks back, and their reactions to them beers
blew their minds.
Blew their mind.
And we got people from like Philadelphia emailing us being like, "How can I get this?" And I was like, "You can't, mate. I'm really sorry."
Yeah, it's gone.
Well, because we can't send it to America because
Right.
America. I won't go into this. This is a nice and breezy podcast. I won't go into the US duty laws because it's not easy conversation.
Yeah. It's quite tough. Brilliant. Okay, another little spin of the wheel here. Let's hope we don't get a repeat question. We are on number 7. If your brewery had a theme song, what would it be?
Oof. Now, I'd be inclined to say something wrestling themed.
But you'll get a letter.
Well, so for a long time in the early days, we brewed a beer called Overkill IPA. The reason for that was because the first time me and Neil ever brewed a beer together, the first time we ever homebrewed together, we woke up. You have to get up really early if you want to brew. Woke up really early, got our brewing started, and as soon as we started brewing, we got breaking news that Lemmy from Motorhead had died. Now, I was never I'm not going to lie and say I was the biggest Motorhead fan, but I always liked, always listened to a bit of Motorhead. And I've got a mate who's massive into them, and every year they used to play Liverpool every year, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come see Motorhead this year?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'll catch him next time. Never got to see him. He passed away before I went. So yeah, we called our first beer Overkill after the Motorhead song, and obviously Motorhead famously did The Game, the song for Triple H. And they played it live WrestleMania 17. So I'd probably pick that because check it out on Spotify. The Game by Motorhead. It's a banger. I'd probably pick that. Yeah,
good choice. Not that I know it, but I'll take your word for it. Another little spin of the wheel, and we are on number 10. Have you ever had to improvise during a process which has gone wrong, and what was the outcome?
Oh God, yeah, completely. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, if you brew enough beers, like I said, I've done over 350 brews on this current kit, including beer we brewed in the shed as well. So I'm probably coming up to like 500 individual batches of beer brewed. So literally everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. I mean, there's some things we haven't been able to do anything about, which have been heartbreaking. So we've had instances when we've been finally finishing the brew off and we've been transferring it into the fermenter, 1,000 litres, and we noticed a little leak coming out the front door of the manway. So we tightened it up a little bit. Normally that stops it. Didn't do it. Tightened it up a little bit more. Didn't do it. Tightened up a little bit more. Snapped the rubber seal. And 1,000 litres of beer, whoof, all over the floor.
Jesus.
Comes out real quick.
Yeah, I bet it does, yeah.
So that's just, nothing you can do about that. That's just got to go down the drain. But we've had all sorts of issues where, like, we've gone to brew and something's broke, whether it's been a pump, and we've had to sort of... We're really lucky that you've seen all our pump, our pipework's all, like, modular, and you can sort of stick... So I've had to,
it's probably the neatest brewery of beer as well, by the way.
I've had to, like, Lego construct... in... Wallace and Gromit, where Gromit's on the train and he's building the track as the train's going.
Yeah.
I've been doing that with pipework, basically, like as the brew's going on, just trying to frantically like fix everything together. Like I've got to skip out this, I've got to put an extra section in because this pump's broke, so I've got to run into the other pump and run it back. And you learn. One thing you learn real quick is how to work on your feet. Whether it's we haven't got this ingredient in stock, or this thing hasn't arrived in time, or this is just this electrical component's just exploded, or like we've lost heat. Okay, what we'll do with this then? So if we can't boil the beer today, we'll sour it and we'll do a sour and we'll put some bacteria in it. We'll wrap it up and we'll leave it for a few days while we fix the electrics, and then we'll carry on brewing. A little bit after that. There's 9 times out of 10 something you won't get out with what you thought you were going to get out of it, but you get something out of it where you can, and it's all. It's like, and the good thing is, especially since we moved to the site we're in now. So obviously we used to be in a site in North Wales. 2021 we moved to the current site, and I built everything. I put everything in. I did all the plumbing. I didn't do the electrics because I'm still here talking to you. I'm not dead. I got someone who knows what they're doing to do that.
Did you get that pat tested? Did you?
Yeah. But all the pipe work and all like the sort of everything, all the plant was put in by me. So it's one of them. And like I said, if anything breaks, I want to know exactly how it was put together so that I can take it apart and fix it. That was always because it's gonna break.
So it's like a massive Meccano set, basically.
It is. Yeah. It's just like mad dangerous Lego.
So
as long as you know how to put it all together, then and how it all fits together, you'll be alright.
So just touching on that then, so is there any mad ingredients that you've picked up and like put something in and it's come out completely different, or you've made a beer and put something in by mistake and then you thought, you know what, that's actually a real good beer. I wouldn't mind using that.
So obviously the Cafe Lime Leaf was the big one, but that wasn't a good beer. Never really by mistake. No, we have a fairly robust sort of process. We have like a brewing software that takes off all our ingredients for us. So even if I'm half asleep, I can just look down a sort of checklist and be like, oh, this, and this. It's fine. There's been times where we've had to like substitute some hops maybe because we've not had quite the variety in, and a beer's turned out really well. And people have gone, oh, that's the best beer you've ever made. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really know how I made it because it was like spare hops that were lying around. So we probably can't make it again. The most interesting ingredient we have used, which I'll talk about real briefly, we use something called tonka beans. You see them in a couple of like restaurants. I think Wreckfish in the city centre use them a lot. They're a very good restaurant. And they taste like marzipan-y, vanilla-y. They're from South America. And they're very strong. We used, I think, about 30 grams in 1,000 litres of beer. And it was a real potent flavour.
Wow, and that's not even that much actually, 30 grams, is it?
But they're illegal in America.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Because if you eat like a load of them, they're toxic. As
in like a magic toxic?
No, as in you die toxic.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, the amount you have to eat, I think your jaw would probably break before you got to the level because they're pretty horrible to eat. They're like what they look like. They're like big cocoa beans. They smell like really perfumey, really mild. They're beautiful. It's a really nice flavour. It works really well in stout. Brew York do a lot of beer with them in.
Yeah.
They're great. So that's the weirdest ingredient we ever used. We used that. I did make a donut beer the other week. We threw actual donuts into it.
That's a proper Simpsons thing. That's a proper Homer Simpson thing.
So you don't go back to the Homer Simpson. Things like that. That's coming out soon. We did that with a local charity.
Is that going to be is that available to buy that, or is that just a charity beer then?
No, it'll be available to buy as well.
Really,
It'll be coming out sort of middle of next month, I think. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Out of all the breweries then in the UK, I don't want to put you on the spot, but where not what's the best brewery because that'd be unfair to a lot of breweries out there, but what's the particular fancy brewery that you like at the minute, and or particular beer?
Okay, so one of my...
Who do you think's doing a good job?
Who do I think's doing a good job? I mean,
apart from them all.
Honestly, I mean, I was going to say, at this point in time, anyone who's still open is doing a good job. I mean, it's been horrible. We had something like 85 breweries shut last year. We were on about 60 odd or so this year. And that not only are breweries shutting, like, pubs and bars and bottle shops, the entire hospitality sector is regressing at a horrible rate, and it's affecting everyone all the way through the supply chain. One of the UK's biggest hop farms went bust this year because they were owed so much money by breweries that went out of business. Yeah.
So it just took them under.
Yeah, which is so people don't think like, so when a load of pubs shut, that has a knock-on effect, means a load of breweries are shut. When a load of breweries shut, means a load of suppliers are shut. It just
domino effect,
echoes right back up through the chain. Yeah, so my favourite breweries are anyone who's open is doing a great job. Specifically, I've always been a massive fan of Siren. They're from Reading. They do a beer called Soundwave, an IPA, which is absolutely lovely, and they do a stout called Broken Dream, which are the two of my favourite beers like of all time. Out of breweries, like newer breweries, I mean, everyone shines some light on some local boys. Azvex are absolutely killing it, aren't they? They've like single-handedly put beer tourism on the map in Liverpool for breweries. Like people are coming to Liverpool just to go to that brewery, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know they came in with big expectations and like a lot of pressure, but they've absolutely. And you know what the best part is? They do wrestling in the brewery as well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so I'm surprised it wasn't in your venue. To be honest,
we honestly to pull the curtain back, but we did have some chats about that, but we just didn't have the location, we didn't have the space. But the guys who put it together, because the people I know, they were like, oh, I'm really sorry we couldn't do it in your brewery. I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, if it was in my brewery, I'd have to work it. I'd have to stress about it. I just get to go and drink beer and watch it. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, cool. So I think we're going to wrap up in a minute anyway. But tell the listeners where they can find your beers. Your domains, your socials, tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us all over Liverpool, really. Just go to your favourite bar and pub, and if we're not in there, tell them to get us in. Tell them to get in touch. You can also buy direct from us at topropebrewing.com. We don't have an awful lot on there at the moment, but we are going to be releasing some stuff very soon because next month is our 7th birthday.
Oh, amazing.
So we're going to have a big event at the brewery on the 28th of October. That's going to be that's a Saturday, I think. That's going to be our sort of birthday celebration, and
can you buy tickets for this? Or?
No, just be a turn up on the day.
Okay.
We've got loads of space. We'll fit you in. Don't worry. Fancy dress is absolutely encouraged.
Yeah, Halloween.
Halloween. We'll do some spooky stuff. Maybe I'll just jump out from behind things and shout boo at you. I don't know. We haven't worked it out yet. We'll have some special beers on. We're actually brewing one tomorrow. We've got a super special collab tomorrow with one of my favourite breweries coming up to brew with us. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Keep it on the social medias. topropebrewing.com. Top Rope Brewing on X, Twitter. We call it X or Twitter. What do we call it? We're on Twitter. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Yeah, get us on all of that. I don't post enough because I think brewing's dead. Not boring, but I think it just worked for me. But I forget how interesting it is to other people. Yeah. So I'll try my best. I promise to keep you updated on the nice beers we've got coming up. We've got some special ones for our birthday. A special one I'm brewing. I brewed last week as well. For something you're doing later in the month as well. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, thanks very much for being my first guest, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week.